What's up, my know-it-alls? Well, it's that time again. That's right. It's time for Star Trek Lower Decks. This time, it's Season 3, Episode 2, The Least Dangerous Game. Hey, what's going on? Welcome back. So, okay. This is a really fun episode. I like some things that they're doing. Specifically, the episode starts with you get to see our group of friends sort of all sitting around, and they are playing they're playing what looks like Klingon Dungeons and Dragons, Batleths and something or other else. And so you have Martok on a screen who apparently has been recorded with certain responses based on things you do. You roll dice, the whole 9 yards. It's actually pretty fun. I would love to see somebody take a turn or a stab at doing some version of this game, even if it's just with the actor who plays Martok doing the voice. That would be so dope. Anyways, so yeah, it's a lot of fun. But yeah, so then from there you end up with you find out that this one character that they knew, Abolian, has been promoted to captain. And specifically what this does is this opens up the fact that Boimler's like, man, how did he become captain? And you find out he got a field commission. And while he had that field commission, it stuck. And now he's a captain. And so Boimler's like, man, I've been calculating my whole career and everything else. How in the world could I not end up being, and so Tendy's like, look, man, you have to figure out that you got to try new stuff. And so he's like, all right, I'm going to give stuff a try. We'll see what happens. And sure enough, he starts doing exactly that. Meanwhile, Mariner and Ransom are on this orbital lift, space elevator. Let's just call it a space elevator. Orbital lift, and unfortunately, the orbital lift is broken. They have to fix it. They go down with 2 engineers, Rutherford and the other chief engineer. And funny enough, Ransom decides, you guys go ahead and down to the planet. We'll stay up here and fix everything. Now, normally that's the other way around. Normally the diplomats, the command staff people, go down to the planet and interact with new species or other people, rather, and then the engineers do the repairs and whatnot. So suffice it to say, this is not something that sits well with Mariner. Big surprise there. So she's still being ridden because of this whole thing with her mom and ultimately making sure that she is on task. And you find out from Boimler she actually has done pretty good and that she hasn't been sent to the brig once this whole time. So that's very interesting. As they're talking, so then we cut back to the ship, to the Cerritos, and you see Boimler talking and with Tendi, and they're having a conversation, and this guy walks by, and he's like, hey, you want to go play this thing? And he's like, yeah, whatever. And she's like, hello, remember the other guy, the bullying guy? So he's like, oh, that's right. Okay, yeah, totally, I'm going to play. So he plays, does a really good job, and ends up befriending some of the command staff. Because that's what happens. And they're like, oh, yeah, it's awesome. So the Bajoran security chief ends up, he's like, hey, you want to come join my dirge choir, my Bajoran dirge choir? It's the saddest sounding thing ever. And it's hilarious. So after he joins the dirge choir, he finds out, he's like, hey, man, because he's like, you've done the prophets proud. He's like, hey, if you need anything, you know how to get a hold of, you call me directly. And he's like, wow. So he's making friends and getting acknowledged. A lot of fun stuff happening throughout the entire episode. Meanwhile, Mariner and Ransom are having big issues on the orbital lift. And while Rutherford and the other engineer are down on the planet enjoying the basking in the wonderfulness of the bikini-clad women and the nice fruity drinks and everyone's hospitality and everyone's all kissy-faced, and it's just, they're enjoying themselves, and Mariner's just kind of really ticked off by the whole idea. So meanwhile, we go back to the ship, and on the Cerritos, you see Boimler, and he's talking about how everything's going so well, and that's when he meets Cranch. Cranch is this reptilian-looking dude. He's got a suit on and everything, and he asks, he's like, he was supposed to be down on the planet. He couldn't go to the planet because of an emergency with a lift, and so now he's waiting on the ship for them to fix it, and he asks, would you be willing to let me hunt you? And so Tendy's like, no way, absolutely not, count me out. And Boimler's like, absolutely, I'm saying yes to everything, let's do it. So the entire idea is that Boimler is going to be facing and dealing with this thing, and it may or may not be more than he is willing. He may have bitten off more than he can chew. That's what I was gonna say. And so it's interesting. It's super exciting. Meanwhile, Ransom and you find out that they may or may not have offended the people on the planet apparently exposing your navel or whatever else. So Ransom's trying to give them instructions like, well, tell them this thing or do this thing. The stuff you would do if you were there. Meanwhile, the engineers are like, I don't know what we're doing. They're kind of, everything's falling apart diplomatically. So at this point, Mariner's sort of really, really frustrated. And so she decides she's done. She's going to go down to the planet herself. And so meanwhile, you cut back and you see Boimler stop by the Cranch's quarters, and Cranch is there getting ready and prepared. And so he's essentially attacks Boimler and is chasing him. And so you have this fight going on throughout the ship. Meanwhile, Boimler runs into the captain. The captain explains, he says, this guy named Cranch. She's like, I love Cranch. He's such a nice guy, this and that. You better run. And so you think he's going to help, and she totally isn't. It's great. So in the end, so Mariner decides she's going to leave Ransom on the lift. And so she gets in the skydive outfit and jumps off the thing, and she's skydiving down. And while she's skydiving down, he comes on the communicator and is like, hey, you're probably right. We should just have the engineers do this. I was trying to see if you were just going to go ahead and bail on me, or if you were going to do the wrong thing, if I pushed you hard enough, and you've clearly shown that you're not, that wasn't going to happen. Literally while she's doing the thing he's talking about. So she's like, yeah, no problem. He's like, all right, meet me at section 8. And she's like, absolutely. Pulls her chute, and so she's got to climb back up all the stories that she was falling, and it's in order to meet him in time to not ultimately get in trouble. Meanwhile, Boimler has decided he's going to go ahead and face this guy. This Cranch guy. So he gets ready, he straps up, he's got some tools, and he's got looks like a phaser rifle and a metal colander or something on his head. I don't know. But anyways, and so the guy hits him as he's sitting here going, the hunter has now become the hunted. Bam! He gets hit in the shoulder with a spear. It's great. And the whole time, Boimler's like, what happened? And dude's like, no, we're a pacifist society. We like to hunt, but we respect all life. We're catch and release hunters. I was like, that's awesome. But he also says, he's like, I'll give your captain a good word. So again, proving that bold Boimler, as he's calling himself, dude, right on, sir. Right on. Here's to you, Mr. Purple-haired cadet or lower decks officer. Meanwhile, they get back down to the planet. By the way, Mariner gets back to Ransom. Ransom says we have to go down to the planet because they may have a psychic baby, a talking volcano, or a supercomputer. This race has all three. And Mariner points out, that got complicated really quickly. So they get down, and he's like, do you see Rutherford and the other engineers strung up? They're about to be sacrificed to the volcano. And Ransom's like, your civilization respects health and wellness, correct? And like, yes. Rips off his shirt, and he's like, take a look at this, and we can talk about it. And he's all shiny and sparkly muscles. It's great. But so again, proving that ultimately Mariner needs to learn to allow the process to work. So she learned some things, and then everybody ends sitting there enjoying a game of once more of Klingon D&D. So there you go. Now you know. If knowing's half the battle, you're halfway to being a know-it-all yourself. What's the know-it-all index for this episode? I liked the episode. I thought it was good. I didn't have a problem with anything that was jumping around. Again, not a 10 out of 10. It didn't blow me away. It's doing its job. It's functionally happening. So I'm gonna go 7.5 out of 10. It wasn't the most impressive episode. It didn't blow my socks off or anything, but it was good. I enjoyed it. So let me comment below. Let me know what you thought about the episode. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the little bell notification icon so you get notified when new content drops. All right, guys, we'll talk to you soon. Never forget, everyone loves a know-it-all.